community and all. So we're gonna jump right into it. So the I one of the things that I wanted to start with a quick origin story just to kind of like let people that might not be familiar about where this community progress monitor comes from. And one of the things that I really like is to start with this phrase that is on the landing page that really describes well what our goal is with this tool, and it's to monitor our region's progress towards our shared vision of what a thriving region on a healthy planet looks like for our communities. And while we do that, we inspire and empower the communities to take data-driven action. The QR code that you see is a way to access. There's also the link. I'm going to be going through a couple of things on the slides, and then I'm going to log into the platform and basically do a couple of things there to show you how it works. And the slides, once you receive them, they'll have instructions, step-by-step instructions, where you can see and go back to all the things that we're going to talk about today. So starting with that quick origin story, I want to start in 2021. That's the year where the Genesee Finger Lakes Climate Collective was established. And this is basically a group of regional stakeholders that got together and decided, hey, let's bring together our communities to drive coordinated systems levels climate action in the region so that we can tackle the effects of changing climate, and very especially in a fair, effective, and systemic way. So the goal is to basically make systemic change. And at the center of all this is this collective impact framework that you see here. So when you see this framework, these 5 elements that the framework has, between the years of 2021 and 2022, we started at the top left corner, basically establishing a backbone organization that will coordinate all the efforts, and that's the Climate Solutions Accelerator. Then the next step was to define a common agenda, and that's where the Genesee Finger Lakes Climate Action Strategy came to be. So that climate action strategy provides us with that shared vision, that common agenda, so that we could all align ourselves. And as you can see on the bottom left, it's basically making this change of many organizations working in different directions and maybe having some type of isolated impact to aligning everybody so that we can move towards a collective impact. So the next step after the establishing the common agenda and the shared vision was precisely a shared measurement for data and results. So now that we know where we want to go, what do we want our region to be, how are we going to measure that? So we started all this effort of defining what are the things that we want to measure, that we can measure, and that will guide our work. And that's how now in 2025, we have the Community Progress Monitor. So I'm gonna go into how to navigate it, because I know it's intuitive, but I know that there might be a couple of things that people might miss. So I want to make sure that you can get the full extent of the features of it. So this is to the left, this is the landing page. This is where you end up when you access the link or through the QR code. And it provides basic information about what that shared vision is. And one of the things that it does also is it starts laying out what are the main aspects of that shared vision. These are the aspects that when the vision came to be, all the stakeholders agree, these are things that we want to see in our region. These are things that we consider are characteristics of a thriving region on a healthy planet. So reduce greenhouse gas emissions, clean energy and regenerative economy, zero emission energy generation, affordable, safe, and energy efficient housing, public and zero emission transportation, healthy communities and environment, and healthy soils and protected agriculture. These were the main aspects of the vision. And I want to take this opportunity to do a poll to see, out of the people that are with us here today, which of these aspects like resonates more with either the goal of your work or just your personal interests. So we're gonna provide a couple of minutes so that you can answer, and you can choose as many as you want. Katie will let me know when we have some critical mass so that we might see a couple of results.
Give it maybe like 30 more seconds. I think most people have answered, so I'm gonna end the poll. And here's the results.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Katie. Let's see. So it seems like we have a lot of people interested in or working with clean energy and regenerative economy and affordable, safe, and energy efficient housing. Those are the top two ones. Then we have reduced greenhouse gas emissions, public and zero emission transportation, and the rest. Awesome, awesome. So this is definitely, it seems that this common aspects actually hit the either the work or the interest of the people on the call. So that's great. So I'm gonna move to the next stage of navigating. So we end up here at the landing page, and from here we can directly go into a community by clicking here and select a community, or we can go straight to an indicator. If we click here, then we'll see like a panel of indicators popping up. But before we go to that, I want to show you the two types of views that you're gonna get. So this is what we call the community page. So once you select a community, you're gonna land in this part here. And a couple of things about the community page is that you can translate it. If you go here at the top, here where it says English, there is a capability to translate to Spanish, and it translates most of the content into it. One of the things is because it is a community page, you're gonna realize that we are focusing it on that specific community. We have a report some sort of like at a glance report that you can download by clicking this link, this button that you will find here. Then you will run into highlights. So 4 highlights, and they're color coded. So if they're green, that means that we're going in the direction that we consider positive. If they're red, then we're not going in that direction. And if they're gray, we're kind of like stable and with no movement. From there, we can navigate to directly to an indicator, or we can come down here and select some of the sections so that we can go into that. One of the other characteristics of the community pages is that we have this progress spotlight, where our goal is to highlight a positive accomplishment or a positive action that is happening specific to that community. So that way, community members that are logging in and looking at what's happening specific on their community, they can be aware and also see something that they can see right there in their community. When you start scrolling down from the community page, then you're gonna start running into the indicator flashcards. And this is how they are organized. Basically, you start with a section, and based on those main aspects that we talked about the shared vision, and then to the left, you have the visualization, and then to the right, you have some text that we're gonna go through. So there's 3 key questions that we want to make sure that everybody that visits the platform is able to answer, and this is how we organize it. After you see the indicator, you get a description about the indicator, but you should be able to answer, why is that indicator important? How are we doing with it? On this side right here to the right, so we have like an icon that tells you how we're doing. It's color coded too. And then we have, how can I take action? And we're gonna go deeper into those in a couple of minutes.
Omar?
Yes.
Before you move on, I know we're taking questions at the end, but Barbara put in the chat something that I think is relevant to this slide. She's asking for, could you give some examples of the communities?
Definitely.
Like when you say each community.
Yes, thank you for that. So for the purposes of the monitor, we are defining communities based on geography. So starting up, we are working with the 9 counties. So we have the nine counties that make up the Genesee Finger Lakes region, but we also have a section, and we're going to see it, that is the region as a whole. We can also have we're working towards then getting into cities. So like big cities that we can find data for, like for example, the city of Rochester and other cities, and also like towns and municipalities. So for example, Greece and Gates, we can find information easily for them because there's a census code for those. So depending on the data that we can that we're working with, if we have that level that we can go to a town or municipality, that's the level that we're gonna go. So we're gonna again start with counties and then narrowing it down from there. Thank you for that question. At some point in our vision of community, we also want to see if we can get into neighborhoods, because we have some community-based organizations that are partners with us, and we know that they focus on specific neighborhoods. So we would like to get to that point, but it will all depend on the data that we can find and to what level we find it. So continuing with from the flashcard, some couple of things about the navigation on the page itself. So this is designed so that you basically scroll up and down through all the sections and indicators. So once you reach a community page like this one, you can just like scroll and you're gonna run through all the sections and all the indicators. However, there are shortcuts that you can use to help you navigate. So starting with this one right here, this is to go back to the home page, and this will always be at the top of that page there. Then also you can select another community right here. So for example, right now we're looking at Genesee Finger Lakes region. So when you click here, you can select some of the other communities that we have available. You can also click on this one right here to go specifically to an indicator. So if you know, oh, I want to see energy burden, you can just click there and look for energy burden and go right on it. Another interesting way to navigate is that the highlights are actually hyperlinked to their section. So if you are interested in any of the highlights, when you click on it, it takes you right into that section. And we're gonna see that in action in a minute. So these are a couple of, again, navigation shortcuts that you can use to not have to go and do all those scrolling. The other navigation shortcut is, as you're going through the different indicator flashcards, every card will have this back to top button. So when you click on it, it will take you back to this section right here. So let's say you were just looking for one specific indicator, you saw what you needed to see. Now you want to go to a different section and you just don't want to scroll all the way through it. You just click on that back to top button, and that will take you right back up. So now we are going to get to navigating the visualizations. And for this part, I am going to actually change and show this to you on the actual platform. Let's see. Up here. Perfect. So here I am in the community progress monitor. Just to switch it up a little bit, I am going to select another community, and in this case, I'm going to use Wyoming as an example, Wyoming County. So as I mentioned, I'm going to use energy burden as an example. If you are interested in any of these highlights, when you click on them, it will take you specifically to that category. So if you want a specific indicator, once you click, so you can see here, here's a list of all the indicators that we have available at the moment. This is going to grow with time as we start processing more data, but these are the ones that we have right now. So you can just click directly into an indicator. So I'm going to go to that one with household energy burden. As you notice, it will just scroll you and take you right to it. And when you are in a community page, it will automatically take you specifically to the information about that community. And as you can see here, the first thing is identifying the view. So when we look at the top left here, we see that we are at the latest data view. So we have three types of views. We have latest data, which, as you can see here, shows us the latest data that we have. In this case, is 2023 data. This data comes from the American Community Survey. So that data is usually 2 years out. So that's why 2025, the most recent that we have is 2022. So latest data allows you to see specifically just that time. If then you can change into historical, which will then allow you to see across different years. In this case, we have 2022 and 2023 for this indicator, and you can see the comparison between the 2 years and how the trend is moving. And talking about comparison, that is actually the next, the other view that we have is comparison. But this one refers more to comparison across different communities. So let's say, for example, in a case like this, you are interested in seeing how I'm going to use Monroe County is doing in terms of the region. We can see here that the region is green. Monroe County is this color right here. And you can start comparing also like other communities. So the purpose of this is basically to benchmark and to be able to see, oh, if I identify a community that is doing super good, like how can I reach out and how can I find out what they're doing? So those are the 3 types of views that we have. Again, we have the latest data view that shows you just that one place in time, that spot in time. Historical, that shows you different times and how the trends have been. And then comparison, where you can see and compare between different communities. The next thing I want to show you when it comes to the visualizations is to identify and change the panel. So if you notice here, when I'm on latest data, as I mentioned, Wyoming comes as the first one because we are on Wyoming's page. However, this is what we call a panel. And if you notice, there are 2 arrows on the sides that will allow you to navigate between all the panels available. So for example, we have data here for Yates County, City of Rochester, Town of Gates. So you can navigate through the panels using these 2 arrows, or you can click here in the middle and you'll see a list of all the communities that we have data for. So in this case, for example, if I want to see Yates, I just click on it. I can find Yates. There's some versions of it for people that might be interested in looking at, for example, the Genesee Finger Lakes region, but without Monroe County, because Monroe, we know that drives a lot of the region. Or something similar could happen in Monroe County. Maybe you want to see data without the City of Rochester. So those are also some definitions of communities that we have. So again, to navigate the panels, we use these arrows here, or we click right here and we can change it. So the other thing, and I already kind of like started doing something like this, is customizing the graphs. And I'm actually going to use another example for this, another indicator. I'm going to go and scroll down to, so in the section for public and zero emission transportation, I'm actually going to go to total public electric vehicle charging ports. And if I, for example, here, I can select, clicking on the legend, what do I want to see and what would I want to hide for any particular reason. So let's say, for example, I want to focus on level 2 chargers. So I can just select that. I just want to see level 2 chargers. Let me see if I have another one. So if I move here to the comparison view, for example, and I want to compare all types of chargers between, I'm going to say, Orleans and Yates. If you notice, I can just click and basically kind of like turn on and off the data on the graph. So as you can see, we can get a graph here that shows us how how the total public electric vehicle charging ports have behaved through time. And we can make comparisons here between counties and between the different, basically any community that we have available, you can click in and out. Another thing that we can do is, now that we know how to navigate the graphs and also how to customize them, the other great thing about this is we can download the graphs as images and we can share them. So for that, when we move our cursor over the graph, this circle pops in here with the 3 dots. If you notice, we have to be around that area for it to pop up. But once we click on it, we get several options. The first one is to download, and we have several formats here that we can download. The other one is to share directly into any type of social media. And then the third one is to look at the image in full screen. One interesting thing about this is that one limitation we have with the platform is that when you download the image, it downloads the complete image. So for example, this customization that we did of just looking at Jay's and Orleans, if you download the image, it's not going to come like that. It's going to come with all of the items on it. So one quick trick for that is to do a screen capture. And that's where the full screen can become pretty useful for. Like you can put it in full screen, do a screen capture, and that way you get your customized graph. So going back to when we were talking about panels, in this case, for example, that we're looking at electric vehicles, here we're looking at all types. But if you notice on the top, we have panels also if you just want to see level 1 chargers, if you just want to see level 2 chargers, for example, or if you want to see the DC fast chargers. So that's one of the other ways that we can customize our graphs here on the Community Progress Monitor. And talking about downloading, another feature is that we can actually download the data for all of the graphs that we are working with. So, and that you do it by clicking down here. You will see this option in every visualization. You click on download the data, and it will give you a CSV version. That looks like this. And there you will have all the data that you need to either replicate the graph or to just make your own graph. Is the visualization that we have, you know, if you want to make some tweaks to it and you prefer to do it on your own, you can always download the data and create your own graph. So that's something that we wanted definitely to make available for everybody. So before I move into the next stage, I want to show you that. Remember that button that I talked about going back to the top? Because again, it can get, for some people that don't like the scrolling, it can get like, it can get hard to go all the way back up. So you can click on the top, you go all the way up. And here's where we can see the community report up here, which is a great tool if you want to get kind of like a quick, maybe like 1 page, 2 page snapshot of how all the indicators that we have are doing. So what that will do is that will open up a PDF that will give you a listing of all the indicators for the community that you're looking at. So in this case, we're looking at Wyoming. And you can see separated by each of the sections of the main aspects of the vision and the indicator that we have for each aspect at the moment. So you can see here how everything is going, which is a great tool if you want to get kind of like that quick, at a glance chop out. And if you want to see details, you can use this. All these are linked to the progress monitor. So when you click, for example, on clean energy workers, it will take you to the progress monitor and specifically to that section. So you can see the full data and you can see all the information that we have about clean energy workers. So one, before we go, now I'm gonna go a little bit into the action part, which I feel like it's definitely kind of like the more important here. But before we go into that, I would like to do a little another poll. This one is 2 questions. Okay, if you can help me with that, just to get an idea of where the audience falls in these 3 categories that we have here. So first question is just to know if you formally work for any type of government institution. And this is just to know if you fall into local government.
Give people a few more, 10 more seconds.
Okay. So the majority of people are not working in government, right? And then the second part is just to know if you're affiliated or you're working with a group or organization.
For some reason, it's not letting me launch that one. I'm not sure why. If you could put in the chat just yes or no, are you involved with any group or organization other than a government institution? I'm assuming most of you will be yes, since you said no for the previous question. But if you just want to say yes or no and what sector you're part of. So we have yes as a volunteer, yes consultant, consultants to the government, so working for them indirectly. Yes, a community organization.
Okay.
And we have someone who's retired.
Okay. So, and I was gonna say, like, even if you don't fall into any of those categories, we're all individuals. So that's why we're not asking for that one. Okay. No, but great. Good to know, because that way I know how I can focus this part right here. So, to part of empowering our communities with this data, it's providing the data, providing all this documentation around the data and as much information as we can, but then also providing information in regards to not only showing our communities how we're doing, but how can we take action. And that's where the part on the right comes in. Like, we have this section is like very important to us, and the way that we have structured it is precisely so that we can suggest a couple of actions, but to specific specific groups that we want. So we're thinking about people as what can people do as individuals, what can people do as groups and organizations, and what can local government do. So because of space, here you will only find one for each. However, we do have this option here to view more actions as a PDF. And I am actually going to go to the energy burden one. Or actually, let me use this one. So for new solar energy generation, if this is something that you would like as an individual, as a group or organization, or as local government to take some action on, we have the suggestions here. We are trying to hyperlink as much as we can so that you can go directly to the sources that we are trying to recommend. And the PDF that I told you about, this is where we will have a complete list of all the actions that you can take. At this point, for this one, for actions to increase solar energy generation capacity, we only have the 3, like one for each. But the idea is that this is something that is going to grow with community input, and also as we keep doing research into what are the things that we can recommend. So this is all to say that if you see this option, look for it, because there might be more things to look for. So for example, I know definitely for energy burden, because we've been working a lot with that, there are definitely more actions for that one than the ones that we are just listing there. Yep. So this is one of the ways that we are encouraging people and trying to put this information on our community's hands to take action based on the data that we are showing right now. And yeah, so with that, I cover what I wanted to cover initially, and I'm open for questions. And I mean, stop sharing for a while, and I'll sure I'm happy to either look up a specific. Sorry, in the
Thanks so much, Omar. So we do have questions that are a little more specific.
okay,
So
and I was gonna say I'm happy to if I need to share again and just kind of like walk through things as we
yeah,
go.
yeah, I'll just go in order. So the first question, I think this person is asking, they said by zip codes. So I think they're asking, can you sort by zip code? But feel free to clarify if I'm not asking that correctly.
So one thing is we are not using zip codes as communities at this point. We're not considering zip codes communities just because some zip codes can like go in between different communities. But that is something that if you know if any organization is like very like very um needs that, then I can work on the background, like can reach out to me and I can provide, because a lot of the information that we do get, a lot of the raw data where all of this is gotten from, does has zip codes to identify. So that is something that I can provide on the site.
Great. And are you able to identify what the different income levels include? For example, what is considered extremely low income?
Oh, yes. And actually, that is a great opportunity to show this. Um, I'm going to use my shortcut here for energy burden. And so in order to, again, space, like space is something that we trying to use like smart. So an indicator like this, when on the section of about this indicator, we kind of like want to keep it short on purpose, but for indicators that have methodological details, we have this type of links here. So full notes about this indicator. So in this case, which is where that question goes, if I open it up, you see all the parameters that we're taking into consideration, like the data sources, the graph. I'm going to that specific question to determine the household. Where did the household fall? We use the housing preservation and department, so the HPD income bands. So low income will be 0 to 30% of AMI, very low 31 to 50, low income 51 to 80, moderate, and so on. Did that answer that question?
I think so. I'm going to jump over to the chat, a question that came in a while ago from Larson Engineers. And feel free to jump in if I'm not communicating this as you are intended to ask. But I believe what's being asked is like, could you add climate smart communities as an indicator in GFL? So the comment is NYSDOC has grants available to help build projects and recognize them with bronze, silver, and gold status. Include these communities and their projects would be good for other municipalities to copy them. And it gave the example of Geneva.
Yes. So actually on a previous effort that we did, this was with Act Rochester that also keeps like some scores. We were actually tracking climate smart communities and those programs. But what we found at one point was that they basically paused. So the data became kind of like, oh, like we're trying to not work with data that is older than maybe like 3 or 4 years, just to keep it consistent. So that was kind of like the challenge there. I can find out, I can look back to see if they got reactivated, if there's kind of like any like movement on those, because we were just trying not to just have an indicator that had data, for example, that said like, oh, 2020 is the latest that we have, because that kind of like might seem a little past. But if there's definitely an appetite for it, we this is flexible, so we can definitely, we're here to serve the community. So if it's something that will be helpful, even if it's old data, we will definitely consider it.
Great. Are you using the names of neighborhoods in the city?
That is the plan, because for community-based organizations that we work with, so for example, Connected Communities, they work with specifically with the Emma and Beechwood neighborhoods. So we will use those names. Mhm.
Okay, great. Good question from Heidi. Who is responsible for keeping this site up to date?
It's the Climate Solutions Accelerator. So we are keeping it up to date. It is managed fully in-house. So this is why we have the flexibility that to be able to accommodate it to whatever we see or the community tells us that is most beneficial to them. And when I say community, this includes organizations, but then also like government. Like if representatives, for example, from any county are looking at this tool and saying like, hey, this is good, but we also want this other data. Can you get that data for us? We'll definitely want to do that. And also at the city level, like I mentioned, City of Rochester earlier, like that is a city that we can find a lot of data on, and we want to that is part of kind of like our next stage. We want to complete the counties, make sure that every county has its own community page, and then move into cities and like neighborhoods and those groups.
Are the charging points on the graph for public chargers or both personal and public?
They're just for public, and I believe, see if I'm not mistaken, that's a great question. So we specify that they are, for example, in this one, it's new public electric vehicle charging ports, and for the total also specifies that it's public. So yes, these are all public.
And then for each indicator, there's an increase in a decrease in increase indicator. What does this mean?
Oh, perfect. So that basically just measures how the trend is going in general, and if it's going in the direction that we want. So let's take this one for example. Total public electric vehicle charging ports. If we go to the historical view for the region, and I, for example, just concentrate or just focus on the total ports, not the type that they are, we see that there's a trend going upwards. And what we see here on how we're doing is we see that arrow going up because that's where the trend is going. Is green because that's where we want it to go. And it has this detail here that, oh, we have a fixed 56 increase in the number of charging ports, and is going from 963 to 1504 from 23 to 24. So that's what that measures. Like we look at the trend, and based on that, kind of like to give an idea of, oh, we're doing great on this one, we're doing good, or we're not doing so good. Maybe this is an area that we have to focus on.
Great. Is there a data dictionary available for the measurements? For example, if I'm looking in crop production acreage, I'm not sure what the terms volunteer acres, prevented acres, etc. are.
That's
And go up to that same person, how often will the data be updated?
Okay, perfect. So yes, great question, and you touched specifically the one where we kind of like it's on our list that we know that we didn't do a lot of details on this one yet. And this is just because that definition, it's the two sources that we have different definitions for it, so we're kind of like fine tuning that part. But what is going to happen is that in the about this indicator, we're going to hyperlink those definitions. So we basically move from, instead of having a dictionary where people will have to go, like as you're reading, kind of like if you were on Wikipedia, if there's a word that that you might not know or something like that, we're going to make it a hyperlink so that you can go to a source that can explain it to you. So for example, in this case, we haven't gone to that part of the acres. That was a great catch. But for example, if you don't know what we're talking about when we mention soil health, you can click here. You can see it's a hyperlink, and it takes you to the USDA website that defines soil health. And at the same time, when we talk about resilience and adaptation, so we kind of like moving into, instead of having a document that people have to go and sort through it, doing like Wikipedia style where you can kind of like just see the term and click on it. And to the question about updating, another great question. So this, as the shared system of measurement, to our collective impact effort, this guides the work of the collective. So the calendar that we have is because many of our sources update by the end of the year, that between January and February, we're gonna have the latest data, and that will guide we will use that as reference to guide our work for that year and the years to come. So our plan is to, between January and February, every year, coming up with a new update. And that doesn't mean that we might not do updates in between. As I said, like, this is managed in-house, so we don't need to like look for other people to do the work, or like ask for permissions or anything. So if there's any update that we need to do in between, we will do it, but program or schedule beginning of the year.
Okay, cool. Is there any way to have a map in Monroe County where the EV chargers are?
Yes, there are a couple. I don't have them on top of my head. There are a couple of resources for that. We could link them. That's actually a great idea. Like, we could link them to show, and maybe in the future, since we have the information, we might be able to host it ourselves. If you notice, we don't have maps yet. That is actually part of our next phase, where we want to, as part of our improvements, we want to start using more geographical data and geographical representations. So that can come. But meanwhile, we can definitely put a link to a map with the locations.
Great. And I think someone asked, what is protected agriculture? But I think you sort of answered that with your comment about being able to click on the various terms.
Actually, in the case of protected agriculture, if you notice, it's not highlighted here. It's not linked.
Okay.
But let me use my shortcuts here, going back to the top, so that I can back to the home page. More details about each of the aspects can be found here on the home page. So, for example, in the case of protected agriculture, you find kind of like that meaning here. So if you notice here, it talks about protecting agricultural lands, farm workers' health and livelihoods from chemical exposure, development pressures, and climate change impacts. So that gives you an idea of what we mean by protected agriculture.
Awesome. This is sort of a larger question, but you might have thoughts on this. July 4th, 2025 brought the total reversal of federal government policy against the climate smart solutions such as solar and wind power generation. How can communities deal with this change in available green power incentives? This would be very helpful information under the current conditions.
Yeah, definitely, that's one of the things that we are navigating through also right now, like, because we have a changing landscape and things get changed even with some programs that we manage for energy efficiency at homes. Trying to come up with what are the things that are still active, what are the things that people can still take advantage of and use. And for the case of specifically solar, we have a couple of resources here, and some of them might be affected at some point. But I think for now, what we're trying to do is basically kind of like keep up with what is there. I don't have anything off the top of my mind at the moment that I can say other than that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a question that we should all consider. Very good point. Do you have data? This is specific to, it's kind of a specific case, but I think it would just be helpful to know in general too for sorting. Do you have data about the dairy farms in Wyoming County and locations of anaerobic digesters in the county?
So we don't have it at the moment, but that is definitely part of the expansion that we want to do. If you notice, we try to get at least 2 indicators per section so that we can get the framework together and the platform and kind of like see how it works, see kind of like get the feedback from the people. There has been many changes since we soft launched it, because people were telling us, oh, this looks better if it's here, it's more comfortable, or you should include this information. But now now that we are at the point where we are comfortable with the platform in terms of the layout, now then we get to concentrate on getting more data and expanding on the data. One of the sections, agriculture is a big one that we want to get more data on. And because as you notice, there's only like the crop production. But the other one is this one for healthy communities. So if you notice, for example, it says that it will be coming in January 2026. And that's because that's part of another batch of indicators that we're going to add on 2026. So this is going to keep growing. And yes, so I'm hoping that we get some good data in terms of like livestock and in the agriculture sector.
Thank you. And Kristen from the Accelerator just put a great resource in the chat also in response to the earlier question.
Oh, awesome.
To join the Accelerator's Climate Advocacy Network to help push for more federal and state investment in renewable energy. And that's in response to those federal cuts. That is also relevant to a question that just came in that I think is more just fodder for us to consider. And related to this Climate Advocacy Network. The cost of electricity in the last 2 years went up much higher than in the past. Next 5 years will be even higher. How can people afford to pay over 20 cents per kilowatt hour in 2030 and beyond? You can help solve this common problem. Please consider it for future. And yeah, we will definitely, that's definitely worthy of consideration. For the Attack on Climate initiatives, would it make sense to include contacting your representatives, joining community climate groups, et cetera? Absolutely. I think that is also part of that Climate Advocacy Network that was referenced in the chat.
And specific to those, if you notice, those are some of the actions that are reflected here for Energy Burden. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think
this is great. This is exactly what we want. We want this to be a community effort in terms of like getting that information to us so that we can put it on the platform.
Excellent. Another highlight in the chat about the current rate case going on with RG&E. If you have comments, you can post them on dps.ny.gov. And the more we add renewables to the grid, the less we have to use natural gas to generate electricity. Very true. I think we have made it through the questions. Apologies if I missed anyone. Feel free to come off mute if anyone has any additional questions.
And if I may, Katie, now that you made that last comment about the rate case, one thing that I'm just noticing here, for those that are interested in the rate case or that are participating, one thing about the Energy Burden on the platform is that you can actually see what level is high energy burden, what level is severe energy burden. So if you're looking at any community, like for example, let's see Genesee County, you can see here by income level that high energy burden, you get people the very low income and extremely low income that are experiencing that, and then very extremely low income are experiencing severe energy burden. So you can navigate through the different communities and see how they're doing against those two benchmarks.
That is very helpful. All right. Are there any other questions? Well, I want to thank you again, Omar. This was very informative and engaging and very helpful information. I think this even just scratches the surface with all the different ways this tool can be used. And that's cool to hear, like all the plans for the future, and but even what exists right now is a really useful tool. So again, thank you so much. Do you have any last words, Omar?
Yeah, just wanted to thank everybody and thank for the questions. These are great, and as I mentioned earlier, this is what we want. I definitely invite you all to keep playing around with it. There's a feedback form there that gets to me, or you can just write to me directly, because we want to make this useful to those to all those people, like individuals, groups and organizations, and also local government. So if you contact us and let us know, hey, we need this, make these tweaks, or we need this other information, or I know a good source of data, we're definitely open. Like we want to definitely make this a community effort.
Yes, and good. Thanks for the reminder, Barbara. She asked how will we access the program. So we are recording this, and we will be sharing this out to everyone who registered, and also on social media channels for anyone who missed it, or if you just want to go back and reference it again as you're using the tool. Yeah, there's also a link in the chat to the monitor if you want to go directly there on the Climate Solutions Accelerator website. And as Omar mentioned, he has a feedback survey. We also have a feedback survey for AMPed, just to get your feedback on how this went and what we could improve, and just kind of your thoughts in general. So with that, thank you again. Thank you all so much for coming, and happy Thanksgiving. Happy early Thanksgiving.
Bye, everybody. Have a great one.